How are you?
I'm great. I'm your professor, Ethan.
I am your most hydrated professor, Ricky. I am
He just drank a whole lot of water from the faucet.
bound to burst. And can you be too hydrated? Because I might be on the cusp of overhydration.
You absolutely can be too hydrated.
My cells are bursting. They're so hydrated.
They honestly, they've called me on the phone. This is weird.
Wait,
this
who's
is
they?
so strange. Your cells.
My cells
Yeah.
called you on the phone? What'd they say? What'd
They said, hey, Ethan, we know that you're the correct host. And
the correct host.
Yes. Because
Okay.
I'm always right. And so they said, hey, turns out Ricky has overhydrated us. Please.
What are the effects of overhydration, Ethan?
Don't know.
Brain swelling to massive proportions?
No, I think it's just you getting...
Heightened intelligence.
I don't think any of those things are real.
My cells feel super powered.
I think they're sluggish.
I think they might be. I'm starting to lose a little bit. I think I'm leaving peak hydration as we speak, Ethan.
Don't pee on my couch.
I might. I think I already have. But
Oh, Jesus.
So what are we doing today, Ethan?
Today we are doing one of our favorites. It's probably one of my favorite for sure of our segments.
For sure.
Is the Pitch or Ditch Redux.
Picture of Redux. You like that? That was
Yeah,
good.
that was so good. Very cringe. Much wow.
Much wow. So if you don't know, Pitch or Ditch.
Yeah, if you're a freak.
I would think, well, I'm gonna interrupt you here. I'm gonna speak over you if anything.
Yeah. So what we did.
Oh, you're gonna.
Yeah. So
you're gonna.
episode.
Oh my God, are you gonna do this right now? We were in rare form today, folks. So Pitch or Ditch. It is when me and Ethan pitch each other a show that the other has not seen and try to pitch it and sell it as a great show to watch. Then we go and watch the shows we were pitched and come back with our review of both the pitch and the show itself and decide whether it is a pitch or a ditch. So, Ethan, the show that you pitched me is a show called Jormungand, and the show that I had pitched you is
Megalobox.
Yes. So, which one do you want to do first? Which one are we talking about?
We should talk about Jormungand, world-eating serpent.
Jormungand. So this show came out. You said it was older, right? It's like 2012 or 14, something like that. 2001.
You shouldn't make me do this.
2001.
Yeah.
1987.
Fuck, 15 probably.
So it was a couple years. The show has come out a couple years ago, and it tells the tale of a boy named Jonah, who was a child soldier. Parents killed in war, and by the effects of war, he was left alone. He was then purchased, I want to say, not really purchased, he was just kind of taken under the care of an arms dealer.
Yes, 2012.
Okay, oh wow, did I really nail it on the head? Look at this guy, like a memory like a steel trap. Linguistic, like a wet noodle. So Jonah, this boy, was taken under the custody of a woman named Coco, a arms dealer who goes around the world and basically promotes war with the sale of weapons, and has kind of a team of specialists under her to help these deals go, I don't know, loosey-goosey, pretty nice and clean. But it's not always that clean, is it, Ethan?
Yeah, so I think in all, and I'm sure all you know at home, anytime that you do an arm deal, a drug deal, something like that.
Oh, you guys are clearly experienced.
Things always go wrong, So, as two extremely experienced individuals here, doctors, some would say.
Yeah. Everyone.
I mean, we just know for a fact it's never going to go to plan.
Never, ever. So she does have a team with her that she is guarded by, helps her with any kind of negotiating tactics, a.k.a. sniping people in the temple.
Yeah.
Negotiation tactics. But actually what's really cool about this show is it is very militant, and it surrounds a lot about, weapons of war and stuff like that. I liked the characters in this show more than some of the other anime I've seen recently. Like, there were some really enjoyable characters. A lot of them actually were pretty one-dimensional, but they were quite cool. All of these characters in this group were, ex-military of some sort for the most part, or just some kind of violent organization of any kind. They're not all war. There was a mafia guy in there somewhere at the very end, but I did really enjoy this kind of show where half of it is kind of like these big brain negotiation, tense conversation, and the other half is straight up classic gun action. The one thing I actually kind of didn't like too much was how much I liked the big brain time conversations. And hear me out on this.
I'm like so lost.
Right, I know. So it sounds a little odd, and I had it today as I was finishing up the season, where hold on, where
what I hated was how much I liked it.
No, because what it was the really
spit it out.
I'm trying, man. You keep interrupting me. No, so the tense conversation was so good. The dialogue was so fun. The interactions between Coco and other people they're trying to deal with or have a negotiation with was so good that the action, while pretty solid, detracted from that. I wanted to see more of the negotiations. I felt that the action was kind of butting in on the best part of the show. Did you feel that way at all? You did mention how they do happen concurrently, and it is not easy to show that kind of thing concurrently. But I wanted to see more of Coco being this big brain player. That was the highlight of the show for me.
Yeah, totally. But I think Coco's big brain is bolstered by her extremely violent, extremely strong group. She's never at a disadvantage in terms of firepower.
Right.
So I think that very, very very heavily backs her up in these conversations.
I think that is true. And I did like the moments where basically she, in her negotiations with somebody, she would say fire, and basically things would happen because she had her crew with her. That was a good use of the gunplay and the violence and the action. But there were moments where she would be having a conversation and then it would cut away to a knife fight in the snow. And while it was fun to watch, it was animated well, I just felt myself way more on the edge of my seat waiting to hear the next thing Coco had to say, And I didn't want to be cut away from that. So I kind of wish that there was less gunplay and more of Coco being a badass in the negotiation table.
Yeah, I kind of wonder whether it's not just because you don't expect any of her people to fail in a hand-to-hand combat.
That might be it. They're so elite.
They're all thugs
yes.
of the highest calendar.
Of the highest calendar. And how did Jonah be more badass than they are? Right? There are times when he is a better marksman. There's even a moment where Coco tells Jonah that I don't think you killing that guy is worthy of your skills. You are better than that. You're a knight's sword. The knight's sword is dulled by depending on who they cut down. And he's like, this is really too many metaphors. I don't understand this, Coco. And she's like, you will one day. Ha, ha, ha. But, she understands. I don't think
he's better. It's just
he's kind of more effective sometimes than some of the squad members.
He's definitely more effective because he catches everyone off guard. You're not expecting a little-ass kid to blow you away.
That is true. That is true. So, I think if you couldn't tell, I think while the other characters are pretty cool, I did like Jonah as a character. He did, seeing things from his perspectives was really, really cool when it comes to the world of arms dealing, or arms dealings. And Coco was the steal of this show. Coco is the reason why I watched it. She is the most charismatic leader I think I've seen in a long time. She's this 20-year-old white-haired chick who is so... she's playing 5D chess and everyone else is playing checkers. That's what's going on here. She has everyone at her beck and call. So I kind of wished and I can't wait for season 2 because season 2 exists. There's only 12 episodes that I watched, but I want to see more of Coco. She is not only ruthless, but she's funny. She's fun to watch. And I think that the charisma that her teammates feel for her in the show was so well portrayed that I felt the same way. I really, really dug it.
Yeah, I think, and that's part of the reason why I pitched it to you. I thought that you would really connect with that, but she's just so charismatic, and there's just so much she's gregarious too.
Gregarious.
Yeah, she's
nice word.
Extremely
what do you mean?
Charitable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, she recognizes what she's doing is not good. She is very aware, and I think that's why.
Yeah, the self-awareness too. It's I'm an asshole. It's kind of like Bowles, right? Your favorite character from Akame ga Kill.
I really did like him.
Is that you're doing bad things, but you could still be interesting and lovable character, even though you're like not a good dude or not a good chick.
I think the self-awareness kind of opens itself up to the audience being okay for rooting for someone like Coco. Like, if she believed in her heart that what I'm doing is a good for the world, I don't think that she would gain the resonance with the audience the same way as her telling like her squad members or Jonah, what I do is evil. I am very well aware of that, but it's gonna happen regardless. I might as well make some fucking money. Like, and I can't deny it. That logic is sound. I mean, that's fine. I resonate with that, I guess, because it's a recognition of good and evil, and I think that works really well with Jonah, who is adamantly opposed to weapons and war and arms dealing as a concept. So him in this position is already compromising for his own morality. By the way, as a 10-year-old, so he's very mature for his age, to be frankly honest. But he's seen some shit. He's been in war. He has used a gun or two. But I like that. Yeah, I like that. He is under the care of a YouTube gang is seeing me do some weird shit with my hands right now. But
I'm really lost.
Yeah, Jonah under the care of a arms dealer like Coco is interesting because she is the subversion to what he is opposing. So he's like, oh, all arms dealers are evil. They're only in this because they believe that they're just out here making money. They don't think what they're doing is bad. She is the opposite. She knows it. She knows what she's doing is bad. So it's kind of gotten him to be cool with Coco, despite hating arms dealings and stuff like that. So
yeah, I did really enjoy that kind of character interaction as well. I think it's very interesting that he still like doesn't want her to see him happy a lot of times.
Yes, and he has a good line about that. The same way that I never smile to hide, Coco smiles to hide.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like he starts to recognize that in her, and I think that's where they start to bond, and there's a little more empathy there for her.
But I don't know. I just liked like that interaction. I think is like a very deep look into humanity in general.
Yes,
because I think you can see pieces of that in anyone that you meet.
Right.
Like one or the other of the two kind of ideals or whatever. Right. Like Jonah, the scarred person who's had stuff happen in the past.
Yes.
I think it's pretty easy to basically try to like outwardly minimize any reaction you have to things. Because like I think that is a very interesting part of him is he just looks like kind of like a blank slate at all times.
He really does. And I love the idea of a person like Jonah because his character, while he looks like stoic, he is a child soldier that catches everyone off guard, he still laughs. He still hangs. Like, he still has emotion. He's not this edgelord who is just totally devoid of everything is pain. Oh, everything is so awful and no one knows my tragic past. Fuck that. He laughs. He cries. He's a human being. And despite...
Yes, but he still hides it all from Coco.
Right.
Or as much of it as he can hide.
Right. So there's moments where he'll just, like, laugh at stuff. And then as soon as she looks, she's like, oop. Okay, he kind of shuts up.
Yeah, like he'll stop smiling when she looks and like stuff like that. But but like with some of the other characters, like you see he spends a lot of time with Velmet.
I like Velmet. She's an interesting character.
But like he spends a lot of time with her and he is very vulnerable with her.
Right.
And she kind of is with him back.
Yeah.
And I like the way they kind of mirrored each other that way too because you can tell Velmet is a very good person as well. Like she was a phenomenal soldier, highly decorated, like basically led a platoon, and then shit just went really south. Like her whole platoon got killed off, right?
Right, by that one dude.
Right. And so it's kind of like a situation where kind of like a Japanese commander, samurai commander, right? If your whole squad dies or whatever,
you're out too, baby.
Yeah,
like
you're kind of donezo.
Yeah.
And I think, kind of like from a disgrace standpoint, that's kind of what they were playing off of.
All of these characters are very interesting in that exact way.
They're all flawed in some way.
They're all flawed, but the thing is, the flaw isn't necessarily a character thing. It all felt a little more situational, where Mao, M-A-O, no, what's his face? He used to do like heavy artillery, and he was just a normal ass soldier. And Coco apparently, she does have a real keen eye for talent, so she will find these people that have all this skill and nowhere to go. And it's very, very, that's what makes this particular team so cool, is they're not all there because they're all one-dimensional. some of them are pretty one-dimensional, but I mean, like, they're all there because they had nowhere to go. They had all this skill, and Coco's like, I need a team. Do you want to jump on? And if they said no, sometimes she'd blow your brains out. But sometimes, she's, like I said, she's a ruthless chick, but she's still super cool. I think my favorite, I liked Lutz. He was pretty funny. They all had really good chemistry, and they all were pretty blasé about, war and shit like that. But my favorite character, I think, is Liam. Liam was cool. The really old guy who's always smoking cigarettes, and he was like their sniper. He was a baller. Like
he's like the team lead.
Yeah, so he's like he's like literally sniping people out like from 300 meters away, and just feel like that's pretty cruel. But this is war, so just clicks another bullet in. So I think if you're gonna pitch this show to somebody, this is definitely one for people who are not big into anime. There's not a lot of lasers and powering up, and there's not your typical anime shit. This is a very human story. This, again, is another one of those that you could put on HBO and have real actors and probably have a compelling season right there.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and I think it would rip. Like, it's one of those things. It's an HBO show. It feels like a story that you can have. And one thing I did look up, too, they mention a lot of weapons by name, and they all exist. Like,
yeah, this is what I told you when we originally recorded the first part, is like the units and stuff they talk about are real. A lot of the weapons are real and stuff like that. So like just doing like cursory, research and then putting that into your show, like that's really all it takes. Like you don't need to know too much about it, like even, to make it feel more real. And, I was having a hard time, like, kind of just deciding whether this is like slice of life, but your life is arms dealer,
right?
But that's kind of what it feels like, because I think you see the downtime.
Yeah, downtime is cool. Like literally, there's moments where Jonah he's kind of homeschooled.
Yeah, they're like homeschooling him, which is hilarious.
He's apparently like super fluent in English, and he's good at writing, but he's really shitty at math. Like he's really bad at math.
So they start using like, okay, you shot 5 bullets. How many bullets do you have left in the 8-bullet clip? And he's like 3, and they're like, oh, nice. You get it.
So there's one training exercise where him and Lutz were training against each other with paintball guns, and it says, okay, for every body shot you get 15. If you take his flag, it's 30. If you get a headshot, it's 20. How many of each do you have to get to like 200? So they're using his world as a way to teach him school. So I guess you're right. It has some slice of life elements that make this, it gives levity to an already kind of heavy thing, like arms dealing and wars, and they're not afraid to get heavy with it. But the levity of the downtime is a really good balance of, it keeps you as the audience member kind of in the middle somewhere. So if you're going to pitch the show to someone who's like kind of into, weaponry and stuff like that, this is a really good show to pitch. Someone who is not big into anime at all, also a good show to pitch. There's not a lot of fan service. There's a little bit. There's a beach episode. There's like 2 minutes of a beach episode. There's like that moment where
basically
Valmet,
anytime Valmet's on the screen is basically fan service. I mean, she's
but it's not unbelievable. It's not abrasive.
And there's a little bit of stuff between like Coco and Valmet.
Yeah, what is that exactly? Is there like a lesbian relationship there?
Coco for sure is not in, like
she knows that Valmet's into her. Yeah.
She loves her, but like not like that.
She teases her a lot. Yeah,
and Valmet is definitely into her.
Valmet is thirsty, baby. Like she is very thirsty for Coco. It seems like everyone in the show is thirsty for Coco.
And why wouldn't you be?
Why wouldn't you be? She is a baller, and she is probably making buku dollars.
Yeah, I mean, she's an obvious snack.
She's looking like a fucking 5-course meal, baby.
A tall glass of snackle.
Well, snackle. If I had to knock this show anywhere, it might be, like I said before, the conversations. Coco being a big brain person is so enjoyably fun to watch, that like her being 5 moves ahead of everyone at all times, it never really gets old because she does it in different ways, and it never always works out. Like the whole thing with the doctors, there's a moment where she has to basically fly 10 almost like Peace Corps doctors into a country that wouldn't let them in. Right. So she's got to smuggle doctors in, but she never wanted to do that. She was told that by her HQ. So not everything always goes her way, but she's smart enough to play and roll with it. So that's enjoyable to see her do that. The gun stuff is fun. It's cool. When used as a technique in the negotiation table, that's super cool. Like counter sniping the snipers as a way to, okay, click fire. You're out of options, so buy my shit. Yeah. So when it cuts away from that to the gunplay, it almost feels like, no, go back. That was cool. Go back to the other thing. I know this is fun, but go back to Coco being Coco, baby. I want that. So that's
yeah.
great.
I mean, I guess I hear you, but like I tried to say earlier, is like if you don't like fully secure all the like loose ends on the outside, like I think Coco is exposed to more danger than she needs to be. Like I think there's a lot of situations in which there's like her and a few other arms dealers that are fighting.
Yeah.
Where like if they don't go on this like insane gunplay spree, like there's going to be issues. Or later on, there's assassins that are called basically on different people in her team.
Right. Yeah.
And so like it's all gunplay at that point. So like I don't really like I agree and I don't agree. I think you know obviously the best part of the show is Coco making these big brain like business moves, right?
But you're saying that gunplay stuff is all in like to look at it anyway, it's to look at it as all supporting that.
Yeah,
like,
I mean it's like you gotta look at it holistically. I mean she can't be big brain if she's under threat of getting killed.
If
right?
she doesn't have the firepower to be big brain with, she is not holding a full deck essentially when it comes to negotiating weapons. So okay, I can see where you're coming from. I do like the one thing I did like a lot about the gun stuff is that it was animated very beautifully, and everyone had their own philosophy about, like orchestra, like, guns are music. He was a little psychotic about that, but they delve into the psychology of weapons in hands of men. I like that a lot. Like, basically, it scratches an itch that'll never be, satisfied once you put a gun in your hand. Other people believe that guns and war is like music, and you play it. It's very fascinating the way they go into weapons and stuff. So I did like that at least. So I highly recommend it. This was a certifiable pitch, my dude.
Hey,
this was a pitch. So
I've been waiting this whole time.
Your pitch was good. It was intriguing. I think you sold it from the realism aspect of it, where every bit of this show is totally grounded. Hell, it's probably happening right now. Like this kind of situation with an arms dealer and a team, it's probably happening as we speak somewhere in the world. So very grounded. If this is something that you want to pitch to somebody who isn't a big into anime, no powering up, no Super Saiyans here, baby. This is all guns and table talk. So this is a pitch. This is a good one to pitch to someone who is fresh to anime. I give it an 86. 86 guns out of 100.
Okay, I like it. I'll take it absolutely.
It's got some problems, but it's totally overshadowed by how fun it is to watch, and it's an enjoyable time. I actually want to go home and watch season 2. So I'm just gonna end this shit early. Bye, guys. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
There's the one scene where she's talking about herself as a snake, or somebody asked her about being a snake.
Didn't the doctor call her a dragon?
Yeah.
So basically, there's a moment where the militia was called the Dragons, and that they were combating against, and this doctor was terrified at Coco's power and said, the way you look, the way you flex that power, are you a dragon too? And yeah, she like, I kind of like the idea of that. Maybe my flying will be better. She's got the same flying luck as Joseph Joestar.
Yeah.
Everything she touches, it wrecks.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of a poignant line in terms of the first season, just being like, she does recognize that she is terrifying. She doesn't do good things, stuff like that. So I just thought it was like a kind of a nice little bow on that kind of through line of her like being self-aware that what she's doing isn't great. Yeah, it's not your usual one-dimensional team leader. It's not go team. It's we know what we're doing is pretty shitty, but it's our job. So we're gonna do it professionally and do it well. So I liked it a lot. There was also this like 1 week period or something, 2 weeks, where she was just like locked in her room trying to figure out how to get out of a problem they were in. Oh yeah, that was when the other woman, Amelia, essentially, when she had all these press connections, so she could leak shit to the press. So then she was no longer under covert operations anymore. She was out in the light. But then she used those connections against her by buying up a company and said, "We'll give you those shares back if you quiet the fuck up." Yeah, and she's like, GTFO. Okay, I will. Yeah, do that. So I mean, that was just like a really big brain play. It did like show you that it wasn't like instant for her. She had to like think about it and work on it for a while. She's got this big junk food addiction. That's yeah. She's really big junk food addiction, but she's still slender as fuck because she's running away from bullets and shit all the time. Course. So. So that was great. The show that I was pitched is called Megalobox.
Megalobox, baby. So 10,000 feet. What's the show about? What we got?
This show is about a young man by the name of Junk
Doggo.
Or later Joe.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to say what in my pitch. I did say only Junk Dog. I didn't want to show you kind of ruin what he was going to be called later.
He's one word, one fucking name. It's not that big of a.
It's a spoiler, man. I'm not out here trying to spoil.
It really isn't. Anywho, so he basically is in the beginning of the show working in the underground gear fighting league.
What is gear?
So essentially it's basically like boxing, but you have like mechanized arm shit. And there's like regulations, like base regulations, but other than that, you can do whatever you want, kind of.
Right.
And it's more about just kind of like, it seems like boxing with basically like assistance, kind of.
Yeah, it's basically mech assisted boxing.
Right.
So your punches hit harder. And you can use it for defense, which is pretty cool too. I've seen that, they would purposefully use the mechanized metal parts to actually block shit.
Right. So he actually is throwing a bunch of matches, and that's kind of how he's making his living early on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a couple large looming debts supposedly over both him and Nambu.
I understand the one about Nambu. I didn't really understand the looming debt over his head. I think he was just trying to make money. Like, because he's an illegal alien, so we really don't know, like, he can't make money a lot of other ways because he doesn't have an ID card, but,
I mean, I'll say that was like one of the worst explained portions because why the fuck does he give a shit if Nambu gets killed? Like, just go fight somewhere else, you know what I mean?
That is true,
so, they needed to explain that a little bit, but let me just continue.
I got you. I'll interrupt you again at some point.
Because I'll say a bunch of good things about it and a lot of bad things about it as well.
Ooh, okay. Spicy. Spicy.
So anyway, he basically meets the world's best fighter at one point and says, "Hey, when you want to like actually box, fam?" And he gets so pissed.
He gets lit up and he's upset about it.
And then Yuri is the best boxer, and he comes to actually fight him in one of these illegal underground rings and just absolutely annihilates the guy. And basically tells him, look, we're never fighting again until you come to my ring and fight in my throne, kind of.
Through the proverbial glove down.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. And so basically the story is just him working his way up through this thing called Megalobox or Megalovania is this big tournament they're supposed to be having of the top 4 boxers, Megaloboxers. And basically the goal is just to become the best Megaloboxer ever.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. At the end of the day, it's kind of just your underdog boxing story. It's pretty. The story itself on a premise level is very cookie cutter. I think it's just underdog challenged by the best, goes on and tries to be the best. That's really all it is. But I think for a story like this, that's all you really need. I mean, just to get that hype, baby. Like that's all you get. Like that's all you need to have. How did you feel about Joe as a main character? He did kind of feel, I don't know. I liked him for what he was. But did you feel like he had a lot? Was there any depth to him? I had a conversation about this. With
shallow as hell.
Yeah,
and I honestly didn't even give a fuck about him at all.
It was everyone around him that were actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Who would you say is your favorite character in that show?
I think Sachio, the little kid.
He was cool, wasn't he?
Was pretty compelling in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So basically, there's this kid who his parents both died off previously, and he's like a street kid with a bunch of other street kids, and they're just basically trying to like make their way through the world by like stealing stuff and pawning it and stuff like that.
Right.
And for whatever reason, he becomes kind of enthralled with Joe and his
bless you.
His like rise, his mission.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Fly me over there.
Something's going on, folks.
Ethan's got the corona. He's got the coronavirus.
Wuhan. No, so he gets enthralled in his mission and then joins their team essentially. And this kid has like tech abilities that are far outpacing a lot of people in the show.
He's a pretty smart kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked at like how much he actually knew about megaloboxing as like a concept because he would watch film and tell him stuff, right?
Yeah. So I mean, like, you find out why later, like why he's so tech savvy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna spoil it right now.
Good for you.
But
okay,
you. So his
the world
dad.
Thanks you. No.
No, but as I thought I guess the only part of him that is interesting is that he was able to make Yuri want to fight him like mano a mano.
Yeah, he actually riled up the champion enough.
And a lot of people, honestly, on the way up. So, like, his whole, like, drive and his shtick is he fights without any of the gear, versus people with gear.
I found it interesting what the audience and the sponsors and everyone involved in the sport felt about him at first and even later on, is that you would think in a mechanized assisted boxing sport, someone foregoing the assistance would be celebrated as, oh my God, he doesn't even need it. Not so in all the cases. Some people were saying that it's an affront to the sport. Like, it's not real Megalo boxing unless you have the gear. But in my head, I'm like, if you don't have the gear, you don't have the advantage, and if you're still winning, my God, my dude. Like, you are above and beyond everybody then, right? So why would people? I don't know. I just felt it weird that people are just like, you're not getting a special treatment. Oh fuck you! You're not playing the sport the real way. You know, he's doing better than the real sport. He's real boxing, baby. That's it.
Yeah, I think, like, obviously it's an anime, so like realism isn't its strong suit.
Not even close.
So like, I think the only thing about the crowd being like that is that it does show, I think, what you would experience in real life if that were to happen.
Yeah.
I think people would be like, dude, you're going to die. Like, you can't be in the ring.
A lot of people did react that way. It's like, you were going to get eviscerated.
Right. And so in that first match, he's fighting gearless against some guy with gear. They're like, freaking kill this freaking nerd.
Wimpy dude. Yeah.
They're like, kill his ass. It's like this bloodthirsty dude that he's fighting.
Oh, is it the shark guy?
Yeah.
It was basically this particular fighter. He has lost a bunch of matches, but he's lost a bunch because of foul outs.
Yeah, like
literally
DQing.
aggressive offenses. So I think what's so cool about, Joe, Gearless Joe, as he's called by all of his fans later on, is that he was always really good at boxing. I mean, to the point where I mentioned in my pitch where he was not necessarily throwing matches by round. He was throwing them by the minute. Like, okay, 5 minutes into this third round, then you could take the fall. But until then, push him, don't push him so much. They could basically tailor how good or bad he could be with precision. So he was already really good. And then he starts fucking people up.
Yeah, so I did like that aspect. Like, he's obviously, like, very, very skilled.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, to be able to basically show a close match until you lose in the, 4.2 minutes into the third round.
Crazy.
Yeah, like, obviously you have to be extremely skilled to do that.
It does go into a lot about the psychology of the fighter, like what makes a good fighter. And I think that shows best in the AI, the AI mechs, the AI gear that one, the brother of the girl who owns the entire company.
Yeah, Mirio. I actually didn't feel that, like, at all.
Really? Tell me about it. So,
there was, in terms of, like, psychology of the fight, I don't think there was really anything related to that. I think it was their different goals as they were going towards something, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's for sure. I think the scene I'm thinking of is when Yuri goes to see that guy when he's, like, basically trying to train this gear that one of the best fighters in the world have is AI assisted. So it basically, like I had mentioned in a couple episodes ago, that removing latency of the assist of your gear with your punch is an aspect of the sport. So the better your gear, the lower the latency. Now, this guy had AI assisted. So basically it would react faster than the fighter that's wearing it could. And then there was a scene where Yuri went to see him and he was wearing this AI and he goes to throw a punch at him and the guy with the AI blocks and Yuri says the line. Now, did you block or did the system do it? Is that you fighting in there, essentially? And that's when it clicked for me, like, oh.
And it goes, me and Ace are one.
Me and Ace are one, baby. So, but, it's very interesting the way that adding gear is kind of talking about, all right, who's actually fighting this fight? And I think that's what's so cool about Gearless Joe, because there is no dispute about who's fighting the fight. It's all Joe, all day.
I think that will, like, from a audience perspective within that realm.
Yeah.
I think that is obviously a large calling card, and they do it originally just for like instant press and like being able to move up the ranks quickly because they have like a ridiculous time frame.
Yes.
And like that kind of bleeds into what I didn't like about it later.
Okay.
But I just think, in order to do something like that, they had to do something crazy, and so within their time frame, going gearless was really the best they could do. Plus, they were broke and didn't have money for new gear and shit like that. Anyway.
That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, they were basically trying to get awesome gear, and then when they couldn't, they're just like, wait a minute, let's just make this your thing. And I imagine if I were in Joe's shoes, I'd be like, fuck you, coach. Like, you're gonna make me get eviscerated out there. Like, no, it'll be a sweet ploy. Like, I'm gonna get punched by a robot fist without any protection.
Joe is like unbelievably cocky.
He is, isn't he?
And it's like really unwarranted in the beginning. Like he has done nothing legitimately at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, well, I'll beat anyone no matter what. And it's like, dude, you got your ass beat by Yuri and it was not close.
That was something I wasn't a fan of. He was so cookie cutter, like main, like shonen protagonist, almost to the point where maybe it was kind of the, us putting ourselves in his shoes vicariousness. He's a shell of a character, so we can do that. I don't think that character type fit for this show. I wanted more out of him. I wanted more of a character, I guess, in my character.
Well, yeah, I
right?
mean, they give him zero backstory, right? And they don't explain at all why he doesn't have a citizenship card.
That didn't help him. That ambiguity is cool for some things, not here. I didn't feel right for this character.
I think that ambiguity works for like a Spike type character.
Yeah, because
where he's like a bounty hunter, you don't really know why, you don't know what happened to make him one, you don't know anything about his background, but it doesn't really matter. He's a bounty hunter.
I did kind of, I guess, if you want to look at the counterpoint, I usually in stories like that, you do have this sob story origin from most characters like that to kind of generate a feeling of compassion and empathy and sympathy for your main character. I'm kind of happy I didn't get a sob story, so it's kind of a neutral thing.
Why does he want to fight so bad?
I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. He's just a dude who loves to fucking fight. But
it's just like it's kind of stupid. Like,
right?
You have to flesh out your character at least to the base amount to where you understand why they're doing what they're doing.
I agree.
They did not offer any like a baseline, this is why he's fighting situation other than I want to be the best.
That's fair. And
it's very rarely does somebody come around in this world where they're just like, I want to be the best and I'll get my ass beat all day long and still want to be the best.
He got his ass beat, dude. That man should be dead. Like
100%.
Joe he's taking his knocks. But I mean, I guess that's the counterpoint to that though, is that you do need to flesh out a character, but in stories like this, typically when they're fleshed out, I lost my dad in the ring to a boxing related accident, and my mother coached so hard she passed out and had a heart attack. That's the kind of sob story you get, and you're like, oh, he fought and he won in the same ring his dad died in. Yeah, that's where usually those go. So if I'm not going to get anything, I guess it's better than that. But you're right. I wish I had more out of Joe. I wish I had a little bit more. I don't need a sob story. I just need something. I need anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can agree.
Which made Coach Nanbu all the better to me. I loved his entire story. They fleshed him out beautifully. Like, I'd say
he's the most fleshed out character by like a large freaking margin. To be honest,
and he kind of filled that hole for me. I was okay with not having Joe, knowing I wasn't gonna get Joe, but I got I got Coach, and his story was cool,
and he got you apparently.
He did get me, so I liked him.
Jesus Christ,
I liked him a lot. He was cool.
Oh Christ,
he was my favorite. I actually like him or Yuri. I liked Yuri a lot.
Nanbu was such a shitbag. It was impossible for me to like him.
Yeah, he was kind of a shitbag.
Well, because he was like basically intentionally fucking this kid's life up for no reason.
Oh, and he fucked it pretty good.
Because he was a selfish little asshole.
Yeah,
I think the coolest part. Actually, I did like the evil guy.
Yes.
I don't remember his name.
Yes.
Toju.
Big Daddy Chef. Yeah, because he was so this guy basically
he wasn't
had
a chef. He was just an underworld leader.
He had a restaurant, I guess.
He had a restaurant.
He had a restaurant. He had a restaurant. Chef Boyer dealings, whatever. He's a bad dude. So he basically had Coach Nanbu's balls in a vice grip, essentially with massive amounts of debt. He was the one who owed him a debt. So, well, that's because Nanbu worked for him fixing the fights. In the end,
that's correct.
So when one day when Joe said, "Fuck your fixing fights, I'm gonna win today, baby," and this Big Daddy Chef Boyardee was not having it. He was not a happy dude.
Nah, fam,
I'm gonna cut your fucking eye out. That's
So his like thing is like, if you want to get off this debt, you can cut out your other eye.
Yeah.
So he already had one that was missing, or you can do more work for me, whatever. But then if you fail me again, you're dying, the kid's dying, anyone involved is dying.
Right.
And so like that's what I mean is like very, very selfish behavior, and so hard to really like relate on any real level with him. I think what was relatable was he had a previous student that went off to war. He thought was dead. He didn't really search that hard for him.
He didn't search very hard for him, which was sad, but...
Well, no, I think he just like literally broke when he saw that he died on the TV.
Yeah,
like I think it wasn't necessarily malicious.
I don't blame him for that one, and the soldier did.
Yeah,
for sure.
Which was such horseshit.
That was kind of rough for him, man. Like,
I mean, you are literally pronounced dead on national television. What do you expect him to do? Come to freaking Iraq and look for your body? Like,
yeah, no, but that was pretty cool that he did come back. He did not have any legs, but he learned to fight without them. Like with prosthetics, which was pretty cool to see. Yeah, man, like Coach Nambu's his entire story was fleshed out well, even though he did end up being kind of a shitbag near the end there. But I like that parallel they had. They always had that parable about the scorpion and the frog.
I was gonna mention that.
Yeah, you can go ahead. How did that relate to the characters in this story?
Well, so basically, people that are spiraling, I think they always seem to do things that hurt themselves more than really anyone else can do.
Right.
And so like if you're essentially, the idea of it is if you're an alcoholic, you'll always fall back into being an alcoholic, or if you're fixing fights, you'll always fall back into fixing fights, stuff like that.
Yeah. So
the parable essentially is like a frog and a scorpion, and the scorpion tells the frog, "Hey, can you help me cross this little river?" And the frog says, "Why?" The scorpion asks to ride on his back across the river. The frog says, "Why would I do that? You're gonna sting me, and then I'm gonna die."
Yeah,
and the scorpion goes, "Well, if I stung you, I would die too."
Yeah, exactly.
So why would I do that?
Yeah.
So after many, back and forths, the frog ends up saying, "Okay, fine." And so halfway across the river, the scorpion stings him. They both die essentially. But as they're falling, the frog asks him, "Why would you do that? You told me you wouldn't do that." And he goes, "I'm a scorpion.
I sting. It's in my nature. That's what I do." And that was probably my favorite storytelling piece in this entire show, if you want my honest opinion, because it was such a really good way to show that people just default to their nature. Then one of the messages of the show is that you can't deny what you are. And, Joe is a fighter and he's just going to fight. I think that kind of adds a little bit of validity to him being just like this no dimension fighter dude, because it's the show is all about, if it's in your nature, you're just going to do what you do. And he's just going to fight. And Nanbu is just going to be a shithead. And the kid is just going to be a techie. So,
well, I don't mind him wanting to fight. I don't mind him like basically trying to fight as much as he can. But the fact of the matter is, he got his ass absolutely creamed for
he really, really did.
Months and months and months and months. And there's no reason that a sane person would continue that drive.
Right.
Unless you give us a reason. He was a little kid and he saw it on TV and that's what he decided was going to be his life goal. That's literally all you need to do to give everyone a inkling of okay,
that's literally why Shoyo in Haikyuu
that's enough to make us feel like we're bought in with his journey. We want him to do this, and that was not present. They kept doing a lot of self-destructive things with Junk Dog.
Yeah.
Where they would show him on his bike just driving as fast as he can towards a ravine or something like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times he'd fly off it and shit like that. So he's dead. Let's be real.
He should have died 12 times in this particular show.
Him being self-destructive and continuing to do this spiral, I thought that was the only really good character aspect to him, is showing his self-destructive nature, and then also him continuing to trust Nambu and continually getting screwed.
Yes.
And then also having to fix fights even though he knows he can win. Like those kinds of situations I thought made sense for a character that was self-destructive. And now I don't know if that was a reaction to his self-destructive behavior inside the ring or vice versa, but I thought
they're definitely connected.
It was definitely poignant from like a this is Joe's only real character aspect that isn't I'm just gonna fight and win type situation.
That's a good point. I mean, and I was looking for something. I think that is the only something of any kind of depth you're gonna get from Joe. He was not built to be a character of depth. He is literally, in more than one sense of the word, just kind of a punching bag, like with the character that a punching bag can bring. How'd you feel with the animation? That was one of my favorite parts.
So great parts were obviously the art style and the animation.
So good.
I absolutely freaking loved the like gritty, grainy, grungy sort of looking style.
Right.
There's an anime that I've seen that it kind of reminds me of a little bit, but I couldn't put my finger on it as I was watching it. I just knew like it was a style I was very familiar with.
Right.
I think just like at this very moment, Ghost in the Shell comes to, rings a little bit true.
I can kind of see it. It's
a little bit like futuristic, but still grungy. And I thought that was like a very Blade Runner-esque.
It almost looks like an anime that had the deepest pockets of any, like the richest studio in like the mid 90s, right? It almost feels like an Akira level of quality.
Totally.
But when you have the technology of 2018 when it was released, it's almost, it feels intentional that way. It's not like let's push the boundaries of what animation can be. It's almost as if let's push it as if it were in a grittier time of animation. So it felt I don't know, very purposeful animation, and it was well done. I mean, I could not have been happier with it.
Yeah, it was just absolutely nuts. But I did love specifically, like you had mentioned in your pitch, like the bed of the music that was underlying all the scenes. I thought, just absolutely brilliant because, like, I don't know, it felt grungy. Like, it felt like you were, like, in the slums or you were down on your luck type situation. It had a very, in my opinion, a very Gorillaz feel.
It did, yeah.
And then a very, this is kind of weird, but it had like the aesthetic was like Flowbot handlebars.
So the aesthetic, this show looked like Flowbots is.
Flowbot sounds.
Flowbot sounds. Okay, yeah, I can vibe with that. I think when it comes to the visual and the audio, everything felt so intentional, like really, really well thought out.
Except for the OP and ED, exactly like you mentioned. They were complete garbage.
It felt really uninspired. Like
when you said that in the original, I was like, no way did he just call this shit uninspired. It was so uninspired. It literally felt like...
What was the OP? The OP was literally just a dog. Like a dog, and then the very last frame is him because his name is Junk Dog.
I was talking the music. I don't give a fuck about the little animation.
Okay, fine. Yeah, but the music was very...
It was like garbage. It was like,
basic
blah, blah, let's go.
Yeah, it's very, very basic. Like, they pulled off some royalty-free site. Like, oh, this sounds good. Let's put some lyrics on this.
It was so bad.
And the ending, like, thank God we skip them. But, I mean, the ending was just... It was
also trash.
It was an afterthought. Those things were an afthought.
But I think this has the best interlude I've ever heard in a show. Like, it's like I looked it up. It was called like Salchio's theme. Actually.
Yes, yeah.
It's like do 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 do, and it starts like
love it a lot. Yeah.
Like working in the beatboxing and stuff, like kind of hip hop.
I like the kids, like the rap in this was super cool, and like the kid, like Sachio would like go off on like this rap in the like late in the show.
It was very like,
I love that,
almost Boondocks kind of
yeah
feeling.
It was.
And then like I don't know, it fit the aesthetic of like the grungy, gritty, grainy type art that they were showing you. So I just absolutely loved that aspect, like the music matching the visuals. I think that's not as easy as it probably sounds, but it fits so beautifully.
It's not. A lot of shows will go pretty, anime music almost has a generic genre where it's kind of like poppy, uppity kind of stuff, But if you can get a good score backing very, like kind of Made in Abyss did it very well, very whimsical and fantasy, but it accompanied that aesthetic very well that the show was bringing. Same thing with, Cowboy Bebop. Same thing with... Promised Neverland had an amazing track too, just because it's all super suspense. Megalobox, grunge. Very, very grungy and hip-hop.
Yeah, because, I mean, you were supposed to feel like you're coming from this, like, underground world, and then you're kind of rising up through the ranks. And I think there was a lot of that rising feeling within a lot of the tunes they chose. Like, you felt like it came from, like, somewhere deep or low, and then you're kind of rising up towards this challenge that is Yuri and Megalovania. So things I didn't like very quickly.
Sure.
The like controversy about being an illegal alien and not having a citizen card.
Yeah.
If you don't explain the world at all, it is impossible to know why that fucking matters.
Yeah. I think you being dropped in, they could have done more to explain why he wasn't. I guess that goes back to not. All they had to do is give one scene where he explains why he's an illegal alien, right?
Like, literally, that's it.
That's all you would need.
That's why I got a little bit frustrated with the show, is like, there's some things they do where it takes literally 1 4-second scene to solve this little plot hole that I think would add enough to the show to where it makes it totally worth it. Because as it is now, there's like just randomly a bunch of little like open holes still at the end.
They get like it seems like the writers of this show, or like the manga originally, or whoever decided to make this into an anime, had a hard on for like leaving things ambiguous, and it worked sometimes. It more often did not. But there was like at the very end, they purposefully, not to spoil anything, but they purposely did not show the scene that was leading up to the entire shows too, right? Which I actually kind of liked, because it wasn't about that final thing. It was about, it was about just enjoying the fight, and that's what they did. They finally got to enjoy an all-out brawl together. So but like I said, more
I
often
couldn't
than
stand
not,
that, because like the only thing you see after the like culmination is you see basically. You hear about the results, essentially, like other people talking about it. And then you see them kind of, the Yuri and him talking at the end.
Yes.
And there's a very interesting addition to this scene now where Yuri's in a fucking wheelchair.
Yeah,
and they never explained it. And it's a whole year later. So somehow this bitch got paralyzed.
Joe punched him so hard.
Or is it his gear that did it because he got it removed? There's a lot of questions.
That
I'd like to have
easily
effing solve.
Yes.
And they didn't.
Someone in that writer's room just had a hard on, like, let's just not tell the audience anything. Let's just not do it.
I don't know. I think that's such a like gimmicky thing, and I'm not a fan of like writers doing that.
They overplayed their hand on that one a little bit too hard.
Well, there's plenty of shit they didn't need to tell us. And then there's
that's true.
Like a very base amount of things that you need to say so that people feel invested in the story. Like, I was not super invested in Nambu, honestly.
I kind of was.
Other than the fact that he had a student that was like flying up the ranks, had to go to war, died, blah, blah, blah. And now he's a shithead.
Now he's a shithead.
I understand that. That makes sense. Yada, yada.
Yeah.
What happened to his wife? What happened to his kids? What happened to his own Megalobox journey?
True.
I just think there's a lot of things they could have like mentioned offhand or quickly. And it would have solved a lot of my questions I have about it.
So question for you, though. Do you feel that this show was ever meant to flesh out a beautiful world or anything like that, or good characters? Or was it just hype on hype on hype? Was it really just meant to be a hype machine? Because, boy, howdy, it was hype.
It's just weird. It's only 13 episodes.
Yes.
But that's like not a common number at all.
No, it's not.
So...
Especially in 2018.
I kind of wonder, was it supposed to be 24 and they had to chop it? Was it... Like, I don't know. It didn't feel pacing was weird or anything like that, except it was very fast. Like
it was, yeah. I mean, I think
like
that might have
been... The
been...
dude should be dead because he took like insane damage every
so many
fight,
L's, yeah.
And it was like always the week later or even in the same week.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe they don't realize this, but boxers fight like once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year max.
Right. That's why those fights are so big.
These days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, back in like, 90s, 70s through 90s, they fought like a shitload in a year, and that's why they all have brain damage.
They all got like super concussed permanently.
I'm just saying that was one like aspect of like Junk Dog is obviously a really good fighter, whatever.
But he should be a potato. Yeah, he should be a potato. Literally a veggie salad right now, just minced. So, how'd you rank it? How do you feel at the end of the day? With its flaws, how would you rank it?
I think it's a solid 80, and I think if you aren't as assholey as I am in terms of like looking for plots and looking for things.
Yeah.
Like if you're or like looking for depth in the show, I think you'll love this, and I think you could easily put this in like 90s, especially just based off like animation, like basically aesthetic in general. And
we do watch our shows
music
with a keen eye, so I
mean,
get
we
it.
have to.
We,
right?
we are professors
and it's all
after
for
all.
you out there.
Yeah, we do it for you, but this is definitely what you said is perfect. If you could turn your brain off, you know, if you're the kind of person that when you watch a work and being told like this is popcorn anime at its best because you just turn it off, let the hype hit you. There is enough story there to enjoy, even though you turn your brain off. But if you start looking a little too under the surface, you're gonna find it's a little more shallow than than what it is. It's a hype machine. It's meant to get you hype.
Yeah, but I mean, 80 Yuris out of 100 is still pretty
80 AI assisted gears out of 100.
Yeah. 88 gears.
88 gears. So, I mean, when I watch it again, this has no replay value.
Yeah, I agree.
Megalobox has no replay. Jormungand, because of how much the negotiating table is and how fun it is to watch the interaction, there is enough. You can probably, after give it some time, maybe a year goes by after you watch Jormungand, I'd watch it again.
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
I could see there being rewatchability there. So, I honestly, between the two,
it was a good pitch, though.
Thank you.
Good
I
job.
appreciate it. So you would call it a pitch at the end of the day?
I think, yeah. I mean, it's only 13 episodes. Like you said, it's extremely bingeable.
How hard could it be to pitch
like
that?
it is worth at least the one time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Not replayable.
No. And a better show between the two, I have to say Jormungand.
So do I.
It really is. And it's not like it's a huge out like crazy, but, you know, I think it's
I think there's just more substance.
Yes, there's more substance. It's a lot more of a human character development story. If I want to get hype, definitely Megalobox all day. That's definitely edge of my seat. Like, yes, Joe, gearless motherfucker.
Hey, that's true.
But yeah, thank you for being on the edge of your seats, YouTube gang. Thank you for watching us. We like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that bell. Give it a real big old fat click. You know. Yeah, so
you heard how loud that was? That was so thick.
If you want to shut your eyes and just be serenaded by the sound of our voice, you can catch our podcast at Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, and anywhere you get your anime podcast fix.
Check out our Instagram at weebology.podcast for memes.
News
and
more memes.
Yeah,
just more memes.
News, more memes.
Big old
random
meme
pictures
sandwich.
of shit we're watching. I don't know.
Just content in general.
Yeah, rando shit.
Drop us a line at our email, weebologypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know of a show you want us to watch, a topic you want to hear, or just show some love. We're ready for it. Our inbox is very, very barren right now.
Twitter at weebologyp so far. I still have not spent the time to fix that.
Don't worry. I kind of love that it's just weebologyp. Weebologyp.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I'm very much not a Twitterer, so it is a difficult conundrum for me to
just drop us a DM on our Instagram. You can slide in our DMs any day, baby.
Yeah,
it's all good.
day.
But yeah, I think they definitely got learned today. So I'm Ricky.
You've been learnt.
You've been learnt. I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And this has been Weebology.
Deuces.
No one got
Maybe my brain cells.